Happy New Year's, everyone! It's that time of year again to talk about how the past year's been, specifically movie-wise. And overall, I gotta say, this year was a bit disappointing in terms of a lot of the big blockbusters. While some were fantastic and some were fantastically terrible, there were a lot that were just kind of, yeah, it's alright. But hey, today is not top 10 movies of 2018 that were just, yeah, it's alright. It's the top 10 best movies of 2018. If you want to just skip right to the list, you can click to this time code, since that's why you're here. But I do have some stuff I want to say before we get into this. These aren't necessarily the most technically well-made films of the year. These are my favorites. A lot of these are technically incredibly well-made, but I just want to say that because I know with a few of these, people will get upset that they're above something like First Man. Yeah, spoilers, First Man didn't make my list. B, I'm actually going to be making a 2018 movie review catch-up video at some point early next year, where I'll review a bunch of the films that I didn't get to talk about this year. So if there's a film on here that I haven't reviewed that you want my more in-depth thoughts on, it'll be in that video. C, as with every year, there are a number of films that I haven't seen yet. As someone of my age with school and social life and all that, I just can't see every film that comes out. So here's the quick list of films that I haven't seen that may or may not have made my list if I had. And finally, D, after the list, I'm going to do a little 2018 recap for my channel, like I did last year, and a mini Q&A just to wrap up the year. So stick around for that after the list if you care. That's partly why this video's runtime may be longer than you'd expect. Alright, with all of that said, let's get into the list.
Tell me when will you be mine?
Number 10, Game Night. This was one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, because I did not think that trailer looked great. But after all the buzz, I watched it, and it's one of the funniest films of the year. It's not just a standard comedy though. The style is what really puts this film up a notch. I stand by what I said on Twitter. This is a lot like an Edgar Wright film in terms of some of the stylistic choices. And yeah, that is a very good thing. The plot is clever and full of twists, all the main performances are likable and funny, Todd from Breaking Bad is amazing. It's a wild, creative, hilarious ride, and I'd highly recommend it. Also, it has one of my favorite opening scenes of the year. Number 9, Incredibles 2. Now I know this is where some people are going to tune out from this list, because although there was a generally very positive response to this film, there's been a bit of backlash, and I can absolutely understand some of the criticism people have with this, especially in regards to parts of the plot. However, this was one of my most anticipated films ever, and while it definitely isn't as good as the first, it absolutely didn't disappoint me. Yeah, some personal nostalgia will come into my enjoyment, but everyone is going to have that with some films. And I don't think using nostalgia is inherently a bad thing. I don't feel like the whole movie was built on it, and when there were moments highlighting the nostalgia or calling back to the first film, for the most part, it totally worked for the story. The music is also fantastic, as is the animation, with some very creative uses of it in the action scenes. And the film took these characters that I know and love in interesting new directions, that I felt both built on their characters and didn't feel out of character for them. So yeah, I had a ton of fun with it, not only as a really good animated film, but also as a really good follow-up to one of my favorite films of all time. Number 8, BlacKkKlansman. This is a film that mixes comedy and suspense really well. It's a very funny film, but it never feels goofy or sacrifices tension for a joke. It's also elevated by two fantastic performances from John David Washington and Adam Driver. Actually, not just those two, but all the performances are great. Topher Grace, Laura Harrier, everyone. It's exciting and very well paced, I wasn't bored once, and the fact that this is all based on a true story, of course, isn't what makes it a good film, but it's fascinating to think about that some of this stuff really happened. My favorite based on a true story film I've seen this year, check it out. Number 7, Upgrade. Honestly, I don't even know if this is underrated anymore, because I've heard so many people talking about it being one of the most underrated films of the year, that I imagine a lot of people have seen it now. Still, it's awesome. It's Dredd meets John Wick meets a better version of Venom, and that all adds up to a fantastic action film. The story and ending are interesting, the action is phenomenal, brutal, and shot in some really cool ways. It's funny, in some pretty dark ways sometimes, and the world it builds is pretty fascinating, which is part of where the Dredd comparison comes for me. It's great, go watch it, if you've got the stomach for some pretty brutal kills. Number 6, Sorry to Bother You. Okay, these next two, I really don't want to say a lot about because I feel like they're better the less you know about them going in. If you haven't seen Sorry to Bother You, don't look anything up about it online. Just sit down and enjoy what is probably the weirdest movie I've seen all year, and I mean that wholeheartedly in a good way. The world this film builds, and the way it's presented, and the turns the story takes, it's just incredible, and I can't do it justice by talking about it, so I won't. Just watch it. All I'll say is this was one of the films this year that stuck with me the most. I was thinking about it for weeks after I saw it. Number 5, Searching. Another film I really don't want to say much on. This was another big surprise for me, and that's probably because the unfriended films have created the effect where I see a film told from the screen recording POV, and I instantly just associate it with terrible filmmaking. But I'm glad this movie broke that for me, because this showed that style of filmmaking, if used correctly, can actually be used to tell a story in an incredibly creative, interesting, and innovative kind of way. Beyond that though, the movie's suspenseful, it's a mystery film where I didn't predict the ending, there are clever twists and funny moments throughout, and the thing that stuck out to me is how emotional the film is. Quite a few parts of this film, especially the ending, made me actually choke up, which I really wasn't expecting. So yeah, Searching is a brilliant film.
Compressing all the stress, asthma on my chest, running out of breath, they gon' know my name.
Number 4, Creed 2. Now look, this is an interesting case, because while this is a really great film, I don't think it's necessarily better made than something like Searching or Sorry to Bother You. But here's where more of that subjectivity comes in, because Creed is one of my favorite films of all time, and this sequel actually managed to live up to my hype, even if it wasn't as good as the first. It did a good job of continuing to flesh out the characters from the first, namely Adonis himself. I loved his arc in this film. The antagonists, I'd say, were better than the ones from the first. Both Ivan and Victor Drago were not only terrifying, but also interesting characters. And that training montage and final fight might be as good as those from the first film. And that's saying a lot. Quick related side note, the worst thing to me is a film that just makes me feel nothing. I can love a terrible film almost as much as I love a genuinely great film, because they both make me feel things in different ways, namely hilarity in some cases. But when something is just whatever, I really dislike that. And my point there is, this was one of the films that made me actually feel something the most this year, if that makes sense. That final fight, with not only the boxing match, but also the culmination of Adonis' arc, it made me feel that same energy and excitement that the first Creed made me feel, and I absolutely loved that. I do have some small problems with the film, but overall I left the cinema with a huge smile on my face, and it gave me pretty much everything I wanted. Number 3, Spiderman Into the Spiderverse. Now I'll be honest, this top 3 I've been switching around for weeks now, and tomorrow I may very well have a different order. But the exact ranking doesn't matter so much to me. What matters most is that all 3 of these are fantastic movies that I loved, and Into the Spiderverse definitely falls into that category. The animation style, the action scenes, the characters, the pacing, the heart, the humor, the voice acting. Besides, like, the smallest of nitpicks, I don't think there's anything I disliked in this movie. It's a movie for everyone, too. It's not just for kids, although kids will love it. Teens, adults, whoever. It's not just a good superhero movie or a good animated movie. It's just a good movie. Period. Number 2, Avengers Infinity War. At this point, is there much to say that hasn't already been said by most people or me on this channel? I'm a big MCU fan, obviously, and this was the epic culmination of the universe that I've been following since 2012, when I was 10 years old, and it was a pretty amazing culmination at that. I've seen this film 4 or 5 times throughout the year at this point, and each time I'm not only incredibly entertained, but also incredibly impressed at how this comes together. Not just all the heroes from very different corners of the MCU coming together in interesting and satisfying ways, but then also character arcs coming full circle for tons of different characters from different films, themes and plot lines all being brought together naturally, all while keeping it funny, exciting, emotional. I mean, it's just a mind-blowing achievement. It also gives some of the best moments in the MCU to date, some of the best action scenes, and an ending that genuinely surprised most people, including me, which is hard to do in one of these films these days. I can only imagine how difficult it would have been to make this film good, let alone great, and they absolutely pulled it off. Now before I get to my number 1, here are some honorable mentions. Other films this year that were great, and some of them I really wanted to get on the list, but hey, there are only 10 spots. Won't You Be My Neighbor? A really powerful documentary about Mr. Rogers, who was not only a really big part of my childhood, but also just one of the best people in the entertainment business, maybe ever. Even if you didn't watch Mr. Rogers growing up, it's a beautiful true story that'll just make you feel good about humanity. Isle of Dogs, an incredibly weird but beautifully animated and told story, with great voice acting, emotion, and I can't stress how fantastic the animation is. Disclaimer though, not a kid's film. A Star is Born. This was the one closest to making my list, because it's really well made, well paced, emotional, and has 2 of the best performances of the year. I probably should have known this, but I did not know that Lady Gaga is a fantastic actress. Deadpool 2. I know Deadpool may be starting to wear out his welcome just a little, or at least people just didn't like that PG-13 cut. But what can I say? I had a blast with this movie. It's exactly what I wanted. It made me laugh, it had some cool action. It's Deadpool. Hasn't really stuck with me, and I haven't felt the urge to go back to it, which is why it's not on the main list, but still, another great comic book film. 8th Grade. Really sweet and heartfelt film. If you liked Edge of 17, this has a similar tone and themes. Check it out. First Man. Yeah, like I said, not on the main list, but it's still here because it is excellently made with fantastic performances and effects. The reason this isn't on the main list is that it left me feeling kind of underwhelmed. The best movies, or at least my personal favorites, kind of like what I was talking about with the Creed thing, are movies that make me feel something and that stick with me and that I go back to. Good examples would be Damien Chazelle's previous movies. So yes, while this is a very good film, I came out of it thinking, alright, that was a movie, time to go home now, and that was about it. So, it's in the honorable mentions. Bohemian Rhapsody, very entertaining biopic carried by a phenomenal main performance. A Quiet Place, no, this is not just here because I love John Krasinski on The Office. A fun horror film with some really tense scenes, good performances, and some pretty solid emotional moments. Also great effects for a film with quite a small budget. And Bumblebee, really fun action blockbuster with great characters, humor, and heart. It's a good movie by most standards, and a fantastic movie by Transformers standards. And now, number 1. What could possibly beat Infinity War and Into the Spiderverse? Well, it would take something special, like an insane Muppet Man, and some kind of legendary mustache. Yes, Mission Impossible Fallout is my favorite film of the year. The thing is, this year there wasn't really that movie that I would give a 10 out of 10, and is way above the rest, like Baby Driver or La La Land. At least not one that I've seen yet. Like I said, these top 3 I like pretty equally. I just had an absolute blast watching this one. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in the cinema. I don't do that very often, or really ever. And the thing is, I enjoyed it equally pretty much every time. It's everything I want from a film like this. It's got amazing action with practical effects and stunts, funny moments, great characters, gorgeous locations, awesome music, a good villain. This is one of my favorite franchises, it's one of my favorite genres of film, and this is pretty much everything I wanted to see. The film as a whole is fantastic, and then when thinking back on it, you remember so many awesome moments. Like the bathroom fight, or a lot of moments in the helicopter finale, or the mask scenes, or when Henry Cavill does this. Which still, in my experience, is the moment that got the most audience reaction out of any film I've seen this year. Of course it isn't perfect, but no movie is. It's a damn good time that's really well made, and I don't know if there's much else to say. Mission Impossible Fallout is amazing. Alright, so those were my 10 favorite films from this past year. Hope you enjoyed. Now, as is becoming tradition for this channel, I'm gonna do a little end-of-year look-back retrospective on the channel and YouTube in general for me in 2018, and also do a mini Q&A. So, if you were just here for the list, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, the rest of this is unrelated. You are free to go. But for those of you who care, stick around, and I hope you enjoy this. Also, when I recorded it about 2 weeks ago, I did it with my face in the video. So if you haven't seen my face yet and don't want the mystery ruined, I'd click off now. Alright, so let's do this. Alright, so we're back to this. This is not as professional as last time, as you can tell clearly. I don't have the big camera that I had when I did this for the Q&A or for the thing I did with Freddy, but I'm kind of throwing this together at the last minute because I'm leaving for America tomorrow. This is on December 15th. I'm recording this because it's a long story. Anyway, don't want to bore you with that. I wanted to do a little end of year kind of wrap up thing like I did last year, and I've decided from now on I want to do these kind of, what's the word for it? Like announcement videos or like kind of miscellaneous videos. I want to do them like this because usually when I record it, I just end up using random movie footage over it. And I feel like this is, you know, it's a kind of fun thing to do once in a while, like once every 6 months. So let's do it. If you hate it, I'm sorry. If you really hate it, I won't do it again. But I think for these kinds of things, it's fine. Anyway, so 2018 in review overall, I think has been one of the best years of my life. Maybe the best. I don't know. I don't really want to say that because I don't remember, obviously, the very early years of my life. But as far as years that I can actually remember, this year has been fantastic. For me. Overall, I know everyone's like, oh, 2018 sucks. And for the world, yeah, there was a lot of bad stuff. But I'm saying for me personally, you know, my life was amazing. And obviously, that is not only because of YouTube. That's a lot of factors going on. But you don't really care about those, and that's way too personal to get into anyway. And so I'm just going to talk about the YouTube part, because even though it's not the only factor, obviously, YouTube definitely has played a part in this being an amazing year. I've kept making content that I'm proud of. I feel like I've definitely improved. Let's see, let's go through some of the stuff that I that I did this year. I uploaded the biggest video I've ever worked on, almost 3 hours long, the MCU chronology, which I worked on for like a year. That was insane. And the response to it was the greatest thing. I mean, views-wise, first video to ever hit 1 million views. That was pretty exciting. And then just, like, the comments and the likes and everything, it was just, when you work on something for that long, and you put so much effort into it, I spent a lot of hours on that video. And then just everyone was so nice about it. I don't know. That was awesome. That was definitely one of the highlights of my YouTube career this year. I don't want to call it a career. Hit 20,000 subs, did the face reveal. That was very different, a lot of fun. People were very nice about that. And then we did a little bit of that for the pod, did a little face pod thing. Kept the podcast going and then put it on break a little bit with that video we filmed. But we've kept it up. We've still done some episodes, when we can. And people have still enjoyed it. And the podcast is one of my favorite things to do YouTube-wise. Because, it's just me hanging out with my friend and, goofing around for an hour. And I'm so happy that people actually stuck with it and supported it, even though we had to post less frequently because school and that kind of stuff. And that's another thing I want to talk about. This year, especially the second half, school really stepped up big time. A lot more work. And I haven't been posting, as you know, if you're a subscriber here, haven't been posting as frequently for the past 6 months or whatever it's been since August. Maybe one video every 2 weeks or something like that. No fixed schedule. And I just want to say thank you for sticking with it and still watching, even though that's been the case. Because I've worked really hard, but I can only do so much when school is the way it is. And I know it's just going to get harder. So I really appreciate people staying with it and just being super nice. I haven't gotten any comments that are like, where's the new video? Kill yourself. Everyone's like, hey, new BHL video. Glad you uploaded it or something like that, So that's just really nice. Yeah, and I'm almost at 30,000 subs now, which is insane. I think I was at 16,000 at the start of the year or something, and now almost at 30,000. It's crazy. Before I get to the little Q&A part, which I wanted to do a little mini Q&A here at the end, just because I don't get a lot of chance to do this, so I thought once in a while, because I'm not going to do one for 30,000, because it's a fun way to stay, interacting with the audience. Anyway, yeah, just to wrap up the YouTube part, this channel is still one of my favorite things. It's my hobby. It's what I do, everyone has a hobby, and this is mine. This is just what I work on in my spare time. And it's just the perfect thing because it's something I love to do, and then I also get to entertain others while I'm doing it. And now it's a part-time job for me, kind of. Without me even, trying to make it a part-time job. Yeah, look, I know this is not going to sound genuine at all because every YouTuber says this or whatever, but it's not about the money, obviously. And if you want proof of that, about 80% of my YouTube career so far, most of it, my videos weren't monetized. So, I do this for fun. If I made no money, I'd still do it. But it's definitely a nice bonus, and it feeds back perfectly into the channel because I spend money on the cinema. That's mostly what I spend money on. What I spend money on are movies, food, and occasionally birthday presents for people. I don't really buy much else. So the money I make from YouTube reviewing movies goes to buying tickets to see movies, and then I review them. It's a great cycle. I'm both lucky that I got this, but I also feel like, I've worked really hard for, I think it's 5 years now to get where I am. Yeah, this is getting really drawn out and sappy. So gonna wrap this up. But overall, thank you for such an amazing year on YouTube. Got a ton of stuff coming up next year. That Office video, still working on it. It's going to be enormous, but yeah, I know I said this legit a year ago that Office review is coming at some point next year. Definitely. I am working on it. But I think that's pretty much it. So I thought here at the end, I would what am I talking about? I put out on Twitter and Instagram, ask me some questions and I may answer it. Not going to answer everyone's because that leads to the videos being way too long. Let's go through the Instagram ones first. Do you think Avengers Endgame is going to outperform Infinity War? No, I don't think so. I think they're going to, at best, be even. You have my respect for your hard work. Do you plan to study at film school? Maybe, if I can. A lot of planning for the future that I have to do now, even though I just turned 17, which I think is wise life like that, where you have to plan your entire life when you're an idiot teenager. Anyway, this is getting way too into my personal life. Maybe. What movies do you think are the most underrated? For me, it's Edge of 17. Thanks, Pierce. First of all, thank you, Pierce. That's another thing I should mention in the recap of the year. Pierce, who started and runs the podcast fan page, always gives me a laugh when I see those. Great stuff there. And as far as underrated movies, Edge of 17 definitely is one of my favorite films. I love that movie to death. God, I don't prepare for these. I'm sorry. I really should. But this is done very, just off the top of my head. I'm going to just say underrated movies from 2018, because that's the best I can do right now. Sorry, Pierce. You know what? I'm going to say Robin Hood, but not in a good way. I think it is genuinely one of the worst films I've ever seen, but I think it's underrated in a so bad it's good kind of sense. I haven't really heard, like, the same way people talk about Rampage. Maybe that's just because that's another one of my favorites of the year, where it's so hilariously bad, that's good. And also it kind of knows what it is, so I enjoy that movie even though it's not good. But I feel like Robin Hood is, like, possibly even better than that as a so bad it's good movie, and people don't really talk about it. So check it out. Check out the new Robin Hood movie. It is watch it with friends though. Not I wouldn't want to watch it alone, but if you have like a buddy that you kind of make fun of movies with, watch Robin Hood. It's a masterpiece of terribleness. Favorite comedy movie? Besides the Edgar Wright Cornetto trilogy, I love the Jump Street movies. They're not masterpieces or anything, but they're so funny, and I've seen them a lot of times. And usually comedies don't hold up on multiple viewings. Consistently make me laugh, so I go with that. Does your mom know how lame you are? Yes, I think she has a pretty good idea. Thanks for the question, Tarn. Do you still make short films yourself, or do you want to in the future? Not so much anymore, which is a shame. I would love to, but I don't have the time. I barely have the time to make these YouTube videos, so no, I definitely want to keep making them, because currently they're just like little action things that I made when I was like 13, which are not great. I'm sure I'll show them someday. But I would love to make something actually like with some substance. I have a few ideas though, so hopefully. What's a movie no one would expect you to like? I don't know, because if you listen to the podcast, I feel like you know the kind of stuff I like, but maybe like Pitch Perfect or something like that. I love that movie, even though it's not, it's maybe not something you would expect me to love. Some people in my personal life who, like, not best friends, but like people who I kind of know and like know I have a YouTube channel about superhero movies, they usually get very surprised when I like Oscar films, that kind of stuff, that like, or like, movies that aren't superhero movies, like indie movies and that kind of stuff. They're like, I thought you only watched superhero movies, and that always kind of secretly annoys me a little bit. So maybe that. Which Avengers actor would you choose to be stuck in an elevator with for 24 hours? Chris Evans, because he just seems like a really nice person. I mean, they all seem like really nice people, but I don't know, Chris Evans just seems like kind of a bit like Captain America in real life, just like someone you'd want to be friends with. So yeah, I feel like that would be kind of fun. Will you put this in the vid? No. What videos are you looking forward to making the most next year? Interesting. Probably the Office review, and something I'm very passionate about, and I've been working on it for a while, and I've made like a little montage that'll go at the end. I'll talk about each season and then like the whole thing overall. I'm very excited about that, and I'm having fun making it. Just taking a hell of a long time because I have a lot to say. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to get down. Will you continue your videos as you get older when you go to college? Love your vids. I hope so. Something might change and this might age poorly, but I'd love to. Yeah. How much of your YouTube money have you spent on V-Bucks? God, I hate you, Freddie. Do you believe in Santa? Do you believe in Robin Hood? Do you believe that we can see another collab with Cinema Geek? I don't even know where to start with that. I'm just going to answer the Cinema Geek one because I do not know how to respond to the other two. Yeah, sometime. Yeah, it was super fun working with him. If you could take any actor to Woody's, who would it be and why? First of all, love that podcast reference that most people won't get. I'm not going to bother explaining it, actually. I was about to, but I was like, if you don't know it, I'm not. We don't have enough time for that. I think we'd have to take Brenton Thwaites or Tom Cruise, because like Tom Cruise, what am I talking about? Dwayne Johnson, obviously. We've seen so many Dwayne Johnson movies after going to Woody's. We'd have to. Again, this will make no sense for anyone who doesn't listen to the pod. But yeah, Dwayne Johnson. And I think Freddie would do the same, because he's a lovely man, and we see and make fun of all of his movies. If you could go to the past and stop yourself from making any video, what one would it be? That's funny. Oh man, so which video do I hate? I'm gonna say a lot of the videos I made in 2015, not because I think they're like terrible videos just generally, but I had this editing style where I just edit it so fast with like no breaths in between that it's just like, I can't go back to it. It's like embarrassing. I mean, yeah, I don't think they're horrendous, but just I feel like my editing was not great back then. I think my original Avengers Infinity War review, I'm really unhappy with. I don't know, because that's not how I feel about the movie now. Those are like very directly afterwards my thoughts, and I feel like it was influenced a lot by expectations and it being so different from what I was expecting that I I didn't give it enough time to really sink in. I feel I'm really happy with my second viewing video, because that's pretty much my thoughts now. But I feel like a lot of the points I make in that video, I'm just like, ugh, I don't agree with that. I feel like it's kind of not impulsively made, but just sort of, yeah, you get what I mean. Also, and I haven't really talked about this, I think another factor that influenced kind of my weird thoughts on Infinity War the first time is I had a terrible day when I saw that, just like in my personal life. It just sucked, because I was like building up to this awesome day when I was going to go see Infinity War, like with all my friends and everything, and then just a bunch of stuff went wrong. And I feel like usually I don't let my personal like experience of the day get in the way of my reviews. Like if I have a really bad day or a really bad experience, like in the cinema, doesn't usually I don't let that affect it. And I feel like I kind of did there a little bit, and I don't know, I really don't like that video. Wow. Okay, so, that was more exhausting than I thought it'd be. I don't know how long this is going to be, but for me, I've been recording for like an hour. So, I'm tired. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed both the Q&A talking part of it, and then also the actual top 10 movies of 2018 thing, which most people came here for. If you watched this long, like if you watched to this part of the video, congrats for sitting through all of that. That's impressive. Yeah, I mean, I said everything I wanted to say about the end of the year, but thank you so much for watching this year. This and the podcast, both of which I love doing for different reasons. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.